You ready?
I'm ready.
Let me introduce you first.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to introduce you to the queen of doo-wop, queen of poetry, MouthPeace.
Yeah.
So who is MouthPeace?
Who is MouthPeace?
Yeah.
When I think of MouthPeace, I think of being unique, bold, confident, not afraid to be great as a singer, as a poet, as a writer.
When did you start singing?
Wow, I was probably, when I actually really remember my age, I was in the junior choir in church. And I was able to lead songs in church. So I was told I was singing at 3.
3.
Yes. My grandfather was a pastor, and I don't really remember because I was 3. But I was told that I used to run down the aisles and just be singing and praising.
What?
Right.
So it began in the church.
Yes, singing started for me in church. Yeah.
And what it progressed from there?
Singing was kind of like from singing in church and then singing in theater. I think I was 18. Yeah, I was 17 or 18 when I started theater. But I actually started prior, like 10 in theater.
Okay.
I
did plays and stuff like that?
Yes, I would do plays. And
what was the first play you ever done?
Oh, wow. I don't remember the name of it, but it was in Davis University. And I played a little girl in a rocking chair, and my first song was The Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston. Okay. And at that time, my range and my voice was different. So I was able to hit a lot of different high notes with that. At that time was kind of like a cool, because I was a kid hitting notes like Whitney Houston. And it was a play.
So at that point, did you know you can sing? Did you have like this is what I want to do?
No, I think like my first grade teacher had told me that I had something special. And so that was something that was kind of like hidden in my heart. So it was like a mental note. I don't think that I really, because I was singing in church and everyone sang in church, so I didn't really look at it as an artist thing, like, oh, you can sing, so you need to be doing this. I think I looked at it as I'm just being busy in the community.
Okay.
You know, my grandma was making sure that I was doing something. So, and because I suffer with asthma, I wanted to run track. That's really what I wanted to do. Okay. So singing was what I kind of like, was like, okay, well, I can do that.
Okay. So you do poetry too?
I write poetry.
Okay. Like spoken word, or you just like to write it? What areas do you do?
I like to write poetry. I like to write short stories, or just put metaphors, or write metaphors and wordplay.
Where's your inspiration come from with the
poetry?
Yeah.
For me, initially it started in a place where it was a dark place for me. And then eventually I just write from the things that I see.
What was that dark place?
Wow. So at that point in my life, I was like 20 years old, married.
Oh.
Yes. And really didn't know what marriage was about. I kind of like seen different examples of what relationships looked like, but I didn't really know how to maintain that. So for me, I was basically away from my family, in a foreign country,
What country?
I was in Japan at the time.
Oh.
And trying to figure out how to be a wife. And I felt like...
So hold on, rewind. So did you meet the guy in Japan?
No, actually, we went to high school together. We actually went to preschool together.
Oh, so like you guys known each other for a while.
Yes, most of our lives, yes.
Okay.
And so that was the history. And then we shared the child together. At that time, we only had one son at the time.
Okay.
So I was being a mother and being a wife and really trying to figure out how to navigate as a mother. And then I had I had my daughter. So that was a different experience for me. So I was writing from a place of like, I'm away from everything.
Did it make you grow up fast? Would you say it had you grow up pretty fast?
Yes, I did. Growing up, feeling like I had been on my own since I was like 17 years old. So
Why is that?
I was a young mother, and my grandmother had passed away. She had raised me, and my mother had, basically I was living with my mother, but because we didn't have a relationship, it was hard for me to kind of live with her. So I had to kind of figure it out and find a place to live. And I ended up getting actually my own place. It was funny. I had
Where are your parents in this time?
my father actually was he was in my life, but my father kind of was married and was like, I think my baby brother. Yeah, he was a baby at the time. So my father was around. My mother was around, but at that time I didn't really have the relationship that I have now with my parents. I didn't have that relationship. It was a disconnect because of my grandmother raising me.
Okay.
So,
but why? I'm gonna dig a little deeper.
Okay.
So why did your grandma have to raise you?
So when I was in the first grade, I remember my mom being actively in my life, and she would go back and forth to the Bay Area. And one day, it was probably my second grade. I was getting ready to go into the second grade. I just remember my mom was just not there.
Okay.
She just wasn't there, and it's like she's gone. And then maybe some years later, maybe third or fourth grade, she came back into my life.
How'd you feel when she came back into your life? Was it more with open arms, or you're like,
No, for me it was open arms, because it was like, what I remember as a kid, my mom was like, I had the best of everything. She was very fashionable. She had style. I didn't wear, like, at that time, thrifting wasn't like today. It wasn't in. Yeah. So my grandmother would be like, we're going to the thrift store. And I'm like, no, we're not. My mother, on the other hand, she had all the fly clothes and the fly toys. So when she came around, it was like, okay, I feel like I'm like in Disneyland, I guess,
you can
in the moment.
Express yourself.
Right.
Okay.
A little bit. However, but my mother struggled with drug addiction.
Okay.
And so, because of that, it was hard to build a relationship with her. Because
when she came back into your life, was she still working with those demons?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how did it affect you?
Oh, wow. It affected me crazily, like tremendously. It affected me to the point where, my grandmother had 10 children, and then she's raising me. So I'm raised around adults.
Okay.
And I had a lot of cousins, but I felt like my cousins were the ones that kind of, they had parents or they had different experiences than I'd had.
Okay.
And so I think it affected me because I was in a place where I wanted attention. I longed for attention.
So did you get into trouble a lot? Is that
all the time? I was like a class clown. I was always laughing and wanted to be seen. And singing was the thing that I was good at. So I was always doing something entertaining to capture attention. From either, it could be good or bad. It could be a good attention or bad attention. Was attention.
Right.
No.
And so you coped with it by just being a class clown and just being a rebel, I should say.
Yeah, I think that I was trying to. I felt like I was always getting in trouble. All the time. I was always getting, and my grandmother worked for the school district, so it was even worse. So she worked at the school that I was at the time. I was going to Bret Hart Elementary School, and she was a community worker, which that title doesn't exist in this day. But what she did was she would make sure kids were able to come to school, and she would provide food and clothes and shelter for kids that wasn't coming to school. Because at that time, you know, you can get in trouble. Parents could get really in trouble for not, you know, allowing their kids to go to school. That's kind of when that's really started. And parents were kind of embarrassed because their kids didn't have any clothes to wear. So my grandma was that person that kind of stepped in to help a lot of the people in the community at that time.
So by her being in your life, it helped you shift being, I won't say a bad kid, but someone who was striving for attention. Like, was she the balance in your life?
Absolutely. My grandmother was from Texas. So if you would ask my mother or her children, she wasn't an affectionate woman. But with me, by the time I came along, she was a person that loved to clean up my ears with she would find anything just to clean the wax out of my ears. And when I was sick, she was just always there. This is the memory I remember, a sacrifice of a woman who sacrificed. I remember I was really good playing the tetherball. And I wanted the tetherball. And so she had called my grandfather, and he could do anything and create and build things. So he had got this bucket and put some cement in it and had this long pole. And my grandmother ended up finding, I don't know where she found this tetherball at, but it was a tetherball. And I was able to play this tetherball in my backyard. And I felt like I was like the most like luckiest kid.
Okay.
And I just remember that because she was just she made sacrifices for me that nobody else would make.
So, where's your relationship with your mom today?
My relationship with my mother is still the same. It's still the same that it was when I was a kid. It's still a disconnect.
Okay.
I have made efforts to position myself to make sure that I'm changing the way that I perceive and making sure that I forgive and heal. But I had to learn that sometimes you only can do so much when a person is still working through their stuff.
Right.
I just had an opportunity to work through my stuff. And I think my mother just hasn't had the opportunity to allow herself to work through her stuff.
So you just came to the idea that she's human. She gave birth to you, but she's a human. But at the same time, you had to let her figure it out on her own.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. My mother was the mother that she kind of gave to my children, kind of what she couldn't give to me.
Right.
So I seen her efforts.
Okay.
So we didn't know how to get that together, but she knew how to connect that with my children.
Okay.
So I can say that was really beautiful to watch, that she was trying to at least be a better grandmother than opposed to being a mother.
Do you think it made you stronger today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, rejection makes you strong.
So as a mother today, it made you strong as being a mom to your kids,
Absolutely.
Because did you not want to like leave your kids? I wouldn't say she left you astray, but you just want to be that strong woman in your kid's life.
Absolutely.
Is that what I'm getting from it?
I think too that when you experience abandonment and rejection,
right,
that's not just from a parent. That kind of follows you in every area with anyone. It could be in a relationship, it can be in business. you start seeing a pattern of what rejection and abandonment looks like. And so when every time you experience something new, every time you turn around, you're like, why do I feel rejected, or why do I feel abandoned? Because you feel like this thing is just following you around. And for me, I think it came to a point where I had to realize that, like, it's my perception of how I'm looking at it. I had to learn from it and be able to give my kids something that, now, I didn't always get it right, but I just gave what I knew.
Right.
And I knew that my grandmother gave me love because she gave me what she knew. So I was able to at least give my children that and be attentive to them, and making sure that but then I also had my aunts and a few uncles that really invested time to take time out for me and show me a different side of the world besides just the things that my grandmother showed me. So I was able to learn that as well and incorporate that in my parenting skills.
And did you transfer any of this stuff? You said, so this is where your poetry comes from.
Yes.
Okay. And so from then to now, how do you still cope? You say she's still like dealing with some stuff, right? But how, as a grown woman, do you just, because I know there's a point where people still get stuck in a mode where it's like, man, I still want my parent around. Even as a grown person, because I see people, even when they grow up, they get stuck where their parents left them.
Right.
And are you still trying to find yourself right now?
No, I feel like where I'm at, I feel like I'm learning to evolve daily.
In which way?
One, by forgiving myself.
Okay.
Because I don't have control over any.
Why are you forgiving yourself?
Because sometimes when you're dealing with abandonment and rejection, you blame yourself for whatever. You can be like, well,
I don't think it's something you should blame yourself for, because, like you said, you have no control over it. So,
well, you don't. When you're a kid, you don't know that, and when you're a young adult, you don't know that. And then sometimes when people have the things that they're going through, it's a pressure, and so people put it on you. They project their stuff on you,
right?
And you be like, okay, what did I do? And so you start to believe those things, and you start to believe that you're the problem, and you're not having someone's back, and you're not being supportive, even if it's not something healthy. And so you start to learn how to forgive yourself for trying to carry a burden that you couldn't carry. You wasn't born to carry that burden.
Okay. So music. So the most recent song I heard was Almond Joy.
Yes.
Where'd that song stem from?
Wow. I like to write songs based on experiences, but sometimes I like to write songs that are based on what I want to be, what I want to exist in. And so the whole idea of Almond Joy was kind of like me kind of imagining the type of relationship that I want to have. That it's not based on a physical relationship, but it's something that it just brings joy and just a sense of like love and kind of like you see someone or you meet someone or like you pass someone and you're like, wow, you felt something. And you're like, wow, like I don't know if I'm ever gonna see this person again, but I hope that I get to connect with this person because I felt like they will be bringing some type of joy to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the concept of Almond Joy.
So you have like what do you want to accomplish in your artistic realm? What's some accomplishments that you want to accomplish?
definitely, well, I won't say completing, but letting people actually hear the finishing of my album. I really want to be able to do that. I also want to be able to finish my book and release that. My book is actually finished. I just, it's timing. Sometimes we want to just rush and just do stuff to prove to people that we've done something. And I don't want to be in that space.
Okay.
I don't want to exist in a space of having to prove that.
So how do you find a balance between, because the world today is like people want and want and want, like their memory is like
Attention
super,
span.
yeah, their attention span is like super short. So how do you balance between being left behind?
Right. You know, it's like a learning process for me. You know, I'm learning from a lot, watching and observing a lot of people that are kind of doing where I want to be, kind of, and then just watching, you know, people that maybe are just being still, how they're remaining relevant. I think it's just learning and educating yourself and being around people that are able to teach you how to navigate to those levels, because the attention span is like, you come out with a new song, everybody's like, that's dope, and then tomorrow someone else comes with a new song, so that song is forgotten about. So it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, it's up to you to continue to push what you believe in. I don't think it's, to me, I just believe that if I wanted to push Almond Joy all year, that's my prerogative.
Right.
You know, I don't think that there's a rule to creativity.
Right.
I just don't think that.
Okay.
I think that that's what the world is conditioning people to be. But I think when you are who you are and you know who you are, you don't follow rules. You just do you. Yeah.
And do any of your kids do music?
Yes. Both of my sons, my oldest son, Savon, he's a producer, singer, musician, all the above. All the above.
And they help you out with your craft?
Absolutely, yes. Savon helps me a lot with a lot. I think I learned more from my kids in the last couple of years than I have in my whole career. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so from this point, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, what's your kind of like short-term goal, like in the next 5 years? Because 5 years goes by super quick.
My short-term goal definitely is to be traveling, not just with music, but with my empowerment, with speaking. I see myself doing a lot of workshops, conferences all over the world, and being able to give people a different perspective about what living looks like, living your purpose, and knowing who you are.
Do you target the youth or older crowd? Who do you target?
Well, because I work with both, I could do both.
Okay.
I don't think there's a limit. I think I would be able to reach my approach and who I am as an artist. I think I can reach both.
That's good.
Yes.
And what what do you want people to get from your speaking? What's something you want to punch into people?
That no one can stop your destiny but you. Like, I think that sometimes, and even I've been guilty of this, being in my own way, because of fear, because of anxiety, because of wanting to be accepted. Even if you say you didn't want to be accepted, but secretly, privately, when you're alone, when no one is watching, you want to be accepted. You want people to like your stuff.
Right.
You know, you don't just do stuff for people just not to like your stuff. So you have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself the hard questions, like, does that really bother you?
Right.
And you have to be like, that really bothers me that 2 people only like my song.
Right.
You know, like, that really bothered me. Like,
Yeah.
this is real, you know?
It took me a while to like get over that hump where I'm like, man, only, like you said, 2 people like my stuff. Like, but I came to the realization that those 2 people can take you even further than the people that are not watching your stuff.
Absolutely.
So it took me a while, and I'm at a point where it's like, okay, I do it because I like to do it, not because I want people to see it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I see. Like when I watch you online, I see that you're very a powerful being. You know, and there's some times where I come to you and I be like like as if I don't feel that what I'm doing is good enough, but you're there to empower and be like, yeah, you're powerful than what you think you are.
Right.
And I thank you for that. And I see good things for you and your kids. I see you guys have a plan for a future.
Yes.
And what advice can you give the people that are watching just to get over that hump of just love yourself and love what you do?
I think the best advice I can like give to anyone, we hear that saying, love yourself, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes people just don't even know what that means, what that looks like. So sometimes you have to be able to just observe what's around you, what's good and what's bad, and take mental notes and start writing down what you want to see your life look like, opposed to writing down or thinking about all the negative things and all the things that you can't do and all the things that people have told you your whole life. Focus less on those things, and really focus on where you want to be in your life. Because if you write it down, it's tangible. You can see it. I suggest people to do vision boards or have it all over if you have to have it somewhere when you wake up in the morning, feed yourself, feed your spirit, I listen to a lot of lecture. Sometimes I listen to different people in the mornings to kind of get me going. Because there's some mornings that I always feel like Miss Mouthpeace. It's a process. It's every day. It's a choice. It's a choice to say, hey, I'm going to love me. I may not even know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. Just like if you were in a relationship with somebody, you have to learn. You have to spend time with someone and to learn. And sometimes we have to learn how to spend time with ourselves. Some people are so busy having people around them.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on energy? How do you view energy?
Oh, energy is everything. For me as an artist, I feel like I feed off energy. There's sometimes I go into rooms and I have an idea of what I thought I wanted to do. And then there's a shifting because I can feel that everybody in this room is going through something broken or in a space of just needing encouragement. So I focus more on that.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sometimes I'm in a room where everybody's lit. So I'm like, okay, that's where we at.
Yeah.
And that's where we at. And that doesn't mean that I still can't encourage and be who I am. But I know that they just need an uplifting in a different way.
Right.
So it's a balance of learning the energy of watching people. You can feel it. You can feel when something is not right.
Cause I've been on this energy kick lately where it's like there's like there can be one person that walks into the room, like you said, that can shift everything. It can be for the good or the bad, and it's kind of hard. And I've been trying to switch listening to music in my headphones to audiobooks, so I can keep my mind fed, like you said, and just be more aware of self-awareness. And what I learned was being self-aware, it would translate like outside your body, and that energy will come to you. I always strive for to search for the energy, but what I learned, come to find out, is that energy comes to you.
Yeah.
And
it really does. I was in a room just, I think yesterday, and I didn't really know a lot of people, but I was looking around and I was like, and I can feel a vibration from certain areas of the room. And my natural response would be like to, conjure up something in my head, like, what why are they looking at me or whatever. And then I realized I had the power to redirect that energy and say, you know what, this is really nice. I'm like, I'm really going to network. I'm going to have a good, amazing time. I'm going to have my cards out. I'm going to do, and so it's all a choice. It's all perspective. And it's up to us to really like shift it, because we can go in a room and demand the energy to be shifted because of who we are.
And that word perspective has been going across my mind for like the last few months. Perspective.
Yeah.
And you're correct. It's crazy how a perspective can change everything.
I realized that it's really what I think. You know, what do I spend most of my time thinking about that was affecting me as a person? You know?
Yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of hard sometimes. Like, because it's out of your control who comes into your life, because the world brings people in your life for a reason.
Right.
And it took me a while to determine, like, is this for the good or is it for the bad? And I think about it too much where, like, it makes me stumble in life, where it's like I'm overthinking things and situations and it doesn't end up good. But when I find myself not thinking about it and just letting fate just take its course, that's when things happen for the good.
Absolutely.
And I, like you said, like, don't let myself block things, you know what I mean?
This is something that I wrote on my, it's kind of like a statement that I wrote. It's in my home. And so when people come over, they get to see it. And I'm paraphrasing it right now, but it says, focus on your why and not your how.
Okay.
And sometimes we focus on the how it's going to get done, how we're going to get there, how is this going to work, how. And our focus should be totally on our why. Why are we doing this? Why am I existing? Why am I great? And why should I be executing in my purpose? If you kind of look at it from that perspective, your how's kind of, or it's like more of a con than a pro, you know, and it helps you because now you're focused more on your why, like why you are doing what you're doing, and you know why you have to be effective, and why are you effective, you know, when you don't even see that happening, you may not feel like it's manifesting. You still have to keep going on your why.
Yeah.
So that goes back to where we're talking about likes and people liking and sharing. If someone's not sharing and liking, you got to go back to your why.
Right.
And not your how. Because I think sometimes if we focus on our why, the how will work itself out.
Yeah.
It does. It kind of like, because all your attention is on your purpose.
Right.
You're not focused on the destination of how you're going to get there. Because when you do that, then you get sidetracked and you can actually be detoured.
Yeah. And yeah, because as artists, we know about the pain of like just acceptance. And I don't care what any artists say, how like strong they seem, but they want to be admired and liked, and
Everyone does.
yeah, and it's crazy how the world is nowadays, where we're forced in a place where we have to feel even more liked. Like before we wanted to be liked, but now we have to feel that we have to be more liked because we're out there in the front with social media and all that type of stuff.
Right.
And yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. I think it's a lot of pressure that's put on a human being to try to be like, okay, I have to look like this, I have to be like that.
Right.
I can't repeat that outfit that I wore last week. Me, I'm like, it might be repeated. I don't know.
Right.
It might be repeated.
Yeah.
I'm breaking the rules. I mean, you know, I feel like you create your own way. Okay. I don't think there's no right way or wrong way. I think that we're trying to follow people that.
What would you tell the next generation, the ones who are going to watch this tomorrow, the next day, or years from now? What would you tell the up and coming generation?
I would tell the up and coming generation, follow your own path. Work at your own pace. Don't, if you move slow with swag, that's what you do. If you move fast with swag, that's what you do. But it's your pace, it's your journey. And whatever you do, don't half do it.
Right.
When I was raised, my grandmother was really, even though she did a lot of stuff, but she didn't have clean. She didn't have vacuum. If you're going to clean a room, we're going to clean the room.
Right.
If you're going to wash dishes, don't just wash the dishes. Clean the microwave, sweep the floor, and mop it.
Right.
And those principles are there because it teaches you life. Like, you won't start a project and just be like, okay, well, it's half done, so I'm just going to put it out because I want to prove to people that I'm putting something out.
Okay. And what would you tell the older generation that it's never too late?
I would tell the older generation that sometimes you have to get out of your own way. You got to get out of your traditions and wave goodbye to fear. And if there's a book or a song or painting or whatever you want to do that's creative, just do it.
The fear of what exactly?
The fear of feeling like, who's going to like this because I'm turning 54 next week and, my kids and my grandchildren, people have reasons and excuses of why they don't do the things that they do. And I think that sometimes also people have been trapped into jobs and careers that have nothing to do with their purpose.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with having a job, but what are you doing when you get off work? Are you executing your purpose still?
Right.
So I just say, don't be afraid to be great. Yeah.
Yeah. So before you leave, just one message you want to give to the people. If you were to leave this earth today, knock on wood.
Oh God.
If you were to leave this earth today, what would be the message you give the people that are watching this right now?
It's a message that I always give, and this is just the thing that I say. No one can stop your destiny but you. But you. That's it. No one can. If you tie your shoelaces together, then you're stopping it. You're holding yourself back. Like, we can't make excuses for other people.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
And I just want to say before we leave that you're a powerful person, a powerful woman, strong black woman.
Thank you.
And I want you to keep doing what you're doing. And the reason why I called you here is just to let the people see who you are.
Thank you.
And just let it translate through the camera, through social media.
Yes.
To let people know what you're doing, that you're a poet, you sing, you're an activist for people to make it.
Right.
And I just love people that just strive to make people better and not be selfish and just want to hold knowledge to themselves.
Right.
And yeah, and I'm glad to sit here and talk to you today.
Yes. And
I hope you just be whoever you want to become at the end of the light. Yeah. And I'm here to support, and I hopefully everybody who's watching this supports. And that's it. Thank you. And thank you for having me. And this is just amazing to see you shining and operating in your greatness. And I feel honored to be here and appreciate it. No problem. Yeah. So I thank you. So I came up with a name with the show. And it's going to be called Let's Talk. Let's Talk. All right. So I wanted to make it broad to everybody, not just a specific type of person, but to everybody. Okay. And hopefully you guys support the videos. Hopefully I'll find more people for you guys to be entertained to watch. And that's it. Yay.